That was Nomi Iqbal reporting. I've been talking to the veteran Republican Congressman Pete Sessions, first about the timing of the assassination attempt.
Republicans have not selected their nominee yet. And while Donald Trump is overwhelmingly that selection, if he had been assassinated, it would have left our party at the end of a cycle or the beginning of making a decision without a clear choice. And so it's most destructive to the Republican Party. On the high side, the thing that we need to consider is that it was a failure of our law enforcement to detect and stop this person from 130 yards out. And that's most distressing. As chairman of the Government Reform and Oversight Subcommittee on Government Operations, we have lots of questions to ask. We simply cannot have these things happen where there is oversight for either mismanagement, the wrong thinking, or not enough resources, and it's unacceptable. And then lastly, the things that are very apparent is Donald Trump, I think, was saved by the grace of God, and he still has purpose and meaning, and those that saw it would have to come up with some conclusion just like that.
Just on that subject, to a lot of British Christians, it is surprising when Americans talk in those terms, but what you have just said will be widely felt, won't it? That God intervenes in our affairs to correct them.
It was a 1/100th of a second decision that was made. And you can say, well, Donald Trump did it. I can't even fathom these things except to say that some people call it serendipitous that this happened. I'm a Texas Republican. I am committed to Jesus Christ, and I believe that much of what we think of in Texas, and I think across the United States, is we think of ourselves as one nation under God, and that God helps protect our great nation.
What happens now at the Republican convention? Because Donald Trump selects a running mate, doesn't he, and announces that within hours, potentially. And there are going to be speakers at the convention too. What do you think the tone and the mood of his speech and of other speeches will be now?
Well, it should be one of thankfulness and gratefulness. First of all, once it did happen, for the men and women of the Secret Service who did leap into action, I would say the tone will be that we're going to move forward. We must change the dialogue. We must change the attack angle that, quite honestly, not just the candidates, and not just the parties, but the American people. We have been led down this pathway that it's okay to verbally bludgeon each other off things that we see. And the bottom line is no country can survive much of this. And that he was spared means that we have another day to think about this and try and come to our senses.
Including Donald Trump himself, because he, of course, has used some of this language that you've just talked about. Do you think he now needs to change?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. A near-death experience like this has got to grip you. I have been shot before, a small caliber, but he lived through something that was very traumatic. I think he should be for fix, not fight. And that means bringing the American people to where we understand that we can continue as a great nation.
Even those who are relatively well disposed towards him will say, hold on a second, this man tried to overthrow an American election. And that original sin, if you like, is the thing that would stop us voting for him and stop us supporting him.
Okay, let's say that there are those that disagree with that. And that was that there was more than enough evidence to suggest, and I voted accordingly. And listen to this, because this is the truth. All we did is reflect on 2 states that would not have changed the outcome. The only debate on the floor of the House of Representatives was about 2 states. We were simply allowing them to go back and give them 20 more days, the difference between January 6th and January 20th, to reassess their vote. There was never an attempt to change the election.
Congressman Pete Sessions talking to me